Now, we're going to do a piece that has music and some words by Blitzstein and words by me from the opera Sacco Vanzetti. When I did this for a company in Philadelphia, they fell in love with the opera and said, we're going to do it in Italy. And they announced it last summer. And then when they looked at the whole opera, which is on video from the piano production that we did at the White Barn Theater in 2001 in Connecticut, they realized that the music was really very, very sophisticated, and they felt that their provincial audience would not be able to do it. They canceled the production. So it's still waiting an orchestral premiere. But this is really the crowning jewel of the piece in many ways. It's the climax of the middle of the second act. If the piece is ever done in 2 acts instead of 3, the way Wozzeck and some other 3-act operas are done in 2, then this would be the end of the first half. And I have to tell you how this was written. One of Blitzstein's most beloved songs from his failed urban folk opera, Reuben Reuben, was the quartet called The Hills of Amalfi. My Nina, I see the hills of Amalfi. And in the year 2000, we were in Italy visiting the graves and the families of Sacco and Vanzetti in Villa Falletto in northern Italy and Torre Maggiore in southern Italy. And as we were going past the hills of Amalfi, this tune came into my head.
Can you explain to who Sacco and Vanzetti were? Not everyone will know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I better backtrack. Yes, you're absolutely right. Who doesn't know who Sacco and Vanzetti were? Ah.
Oh, good.
Okay. Sacco, Bartolomeo Vanzetti and Nicola Sacco were 2 Italians, came to America as immigrants. They were also anarchists, and they were involved in unions, and they were caught up in the Red Scare after the bomb, or actually before the bomb.
What was the Red Scare?
What was the Red Scare? Okay. The Palmer raids and so forth. There was well, what was the Red Scare? You know, that reminds me of one of my favorite lines in Beyond the Fringe, which I was in at Harvard, a production of that wonderful British review, where somebody says, one of the characters says, you know, Americans really do have believe in something. They really do believe in anti-communism. And then the rejoinder is, oh, I wish we had a positive faith like that in England. Yes? But I mean, the anti-communism in America has been legion, and it began actually with the Red Scare, and then came the McCarthy period in the 50s, which was just a kind of a rehash of that in some ways. The Red Scare resulted in the deportation of many radicals, including Emma Goldman and Alexander Berkman, and Sacco and Vanzetti were arrested, and they thought that they were going to be deported. And instead they were put on trial for murder.
Yeah.
For a crime they did not commit. But the jury was so prejudiced against them, and the judge, who was able to rule on his own appeals, denied appeal after appeal after appeal, there was an international movement to save them, which, and the St. Vincent Millay and Marc Blitzstein, Arthur Parker, I mean, many people joined. And it was not successful. They were eventually executed. Although there's a very famous speech that Sacco made, that Vanzetti made, which is quoted in The Male Animal by James Thurber, and later was in other movies, where he said, if it had not been for these things, I might have lived out my life talking at street corners, scorning men. And in our agony is our triumph, because they had called attention to their cause, they felt, by being martyrs for it. So Sacco and Vanzetti were martyrs and heroes for Blitzstein his whole life. And he wrote an opera called The Condemned, which was never produced. He later used other music from it for other works. And in the early 1950s, he wrote an opera, urban folk opera, which was billed, unfortunately, as a musical, and it flopped miserably in Boston. It never got to New York. It was called Reuben Reuben. It took place in Little Italy. in New York. And when Blitzstein left on Sacco Vanzetti largely unfinished, he had already been taking things from Rubin and putting them into Sacco Vanzetti. So I took that as a cue, and I put 14 more songs into it. And this was one of them. This song, The Hills of Amalfi, as we were taking the train from Villa Folletto to Torre Maggiore, we passed the Hills of Amalfi, and I said, oh my God, the Hills of Amalfi, Villa Folletto, Torre Maggiore, it all fits together. And we're going to put those words to it. So when Helene and I got to Torre Maggiore, we visited with Sacco's niece, who had built a monument to him. By the way, I should mention that after Blitzstein's death, many years after, 1977 to be exact, Governor Michael Dukakis of Massachusetts issued a statement exonerating Sacco and Vanzetti.
Good for him.
And I spoke with him about this, and he clarified to me, he said, I did not pardon them, because that would have meant they were guilty. I exonerated them because they did not have a fair trial, and on our system of justice, they are innocent unless proven guilty, and they did not have a fair trial. I'm exonerating them. He got terrible flack for that, you know. Well, he got flack for being too merciful on people like Willie Horton, too, you know. And in fact, when we were in Italy, I was asked, Michael Dukakis ran for president.
That's right.
Why didn't he win? And I said, well, they said because he pardoned too many people. And they said, oh my God, you know, all of a sudden, Sacco Vanzetti, the center of the world, you know. And they gave us help me.
Plaque.
A plaque, yeah, for the concert that we gave in Torre Maggiore, where we first sang this piece that you're going to hear now, based on the Hills of Amalfi. It's about Sacco and his wife, Rosa, thinking about how they would like to go back to Italy, back to Torre Maggiore.